Rena! My apologies. Rena, what are you doing here?
Hi Devin, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm just a little surprised to see you here. I thought you'd be at home, you know, getting a manicure.
Well, I was invited last week to this event called The Pursuit of Happiness, so I thought I'd explore it.
Did you say event? I thought this was the screening to Will Smith's hit movie, the sequel of The Pursuit of Happiness.
No, Devin, this is not a screening.
If that's the case, you know, I'm in two minds whether I should stay. I think I might bounce. Just one question though. Why is there a need for you to search for happiness?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you work in Canary Wharf, high flyer, 42nd floor. A view that I would certainly pay for. Gucci, Prada, LV bags, and most of all, you have an iPhone.
Yeah, but I only have an iPhone 4. I don't have an iPhone 5.
What's the difference, Rena?
An iPhone 5 has an 8-megapixel camera. It has this little person that makes phone calls for you, sends text messages. Why wouldn't I want an iPhone 5?
Rena, do you really think a phone can make you happy?
You know what? I thought it would. I really did. Actually, there are many things I thought that would really make me happy in my life. When I was, you know, it reminds me when I was younger, all I could think about was, when I get into uni, I'll really, really be happy. Got to uni, and all those 3 years, all I thought about was, when I'll get my first job, that first paycheck, that's the day I'll finally be happy. Got the job, got the paycheck, and all I could think about was, the day I buy my first house, I'll be happy. I don't know, Devin, it seems like I keep postponing my happiness into the future.
It's interesting, because I've just had a revelation. You know, come to think of it, when I was younger, I could remember just wanting to make friends, impress the friends, and just buy all the latest stuff. But to be honest with you, although it did something on the outside of me, I don't think it really sustained me with happiness. I guess it's time for me to leave. I mean, I'm still in two minds of whether I should leave now. Thank you for invoking thought within me. Should I leave or should I stay? Guys, what do you guys think? Stay? Leave? Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pursuit of Happiness.
And listening to what Devin and Rena were saying, yeah, you know, like all of us, I mean, I'm talking from my own perspective, like, yeah, you know, we have this job and I want to pursue, you know, this whole thing about, you know, making sure that I'm successful in my job. I want to make sure that I have enough money in the bank so then I can buy a good phone, I can buy a good house, I can have a good car. I want to make sure that I have, the, you know, good people around me. I want to make sure that everything externally is good. And even sitting on this chair, all of these things I feel are comforts. You know, these are all things that I want to achieve externally. But at some point I may not actually feel happy, like Rena was saying. I've got the iPhone 5, but it doesn't give me fulfillment. So I want to know the difference between what does it mean to be happy and what does it mean to be comfortable. Because I can be sat on this chair and I may be comfortable, but I'm not all that happy. So it almost seems like comfort is something which is something I can achieve externally, but happiness is something really innate. And I just want to know a bit more about what is this difference between comfort and happiness. You know, a lot of us are on this journey seeking something, seeking to pursue something. And how do I not get confused between the pursuit of comfort and the pursuit of happiness? Anyone?
Hi. I think your attitude and how you feel, you can represent that in how you wake up each morning, and for me, how you dress. So for example, today it was raining, grey, didn't really feel like getting dressed up. I wanted to wear a tracksuit and feel snuggy, but I decided to, you know, put on a dress, do a bit of makeup, make myself feel nice, and I feel that that changes my attitude throughout the day. So a lot of people on a Monday morning or maybe a Friday afternoon for work, they won't feel that they want to make an effort, they feel like they're sort of already at home. But if you approach how you dress, it will kind of affect your work day.
It's kind of just being proactive about what you do to make sure you feel good about yourself, taking yourself that extra mile.
A frame of mind, I think, it's an attitude and it represents how you feel.
Something about, I like what you're saying, and I think there's something about care for the self, you know, which adds that extra element. And you know, it took me a long time to understand and to figure out, well, how do I take care of myself? Because I always want somebody else to take care of me. And so there's this whole dimension of kind of standing up on your own feet and learning how to take care of yourself. That's a really important part of being happy. And what struck me from the video and then from the subsequent dialogue was you got the pursuit of happiness, and then you talked about the pursuit of comfort, and then I think the third dimension is the pursuit of pleasure, which for me is probably the thing that makes me comfortable but not happy, and where, you know, I've got a tremendous amount of things that are going to keep my senses stimulated, occupied, entertained, but yet internally I may be as flat as a pancake. You know, there's nothing moving, there's nothing generating, there's no energy going, and the kind of the distance between me and what's going on around me gets bigger. You know, there's no traction inside. And so there's something about knowing what is the energy am I feeding at this point. Is it the energy of a happiness that's a wellspring from inside and a care? Is it a pleasure-seeking venture, or is it just comfortable cruising at this altitude but nothing much is happening? And then I think that's a different kind of learning as well, because getting out of the comfort zone is stepping into learning, opening myself up to learning. That's what it is for me.
Well, when I was looking at that video there, I was just thinking that I think we're all quite different, and for some people maybe some of those things are attractive, and I'd say there was only really one thing on there that really drew me, which was the adventure bit, and I have this feeling that most young people today actually know, like we kind of know that happiness doesn't come from outside already. We don't need anybody to tell us that. Theoretically, the understanding is there. But I think for myself, there was like a few key moments in my life where it really sunk in, and I really saw that actually it became real, and both of them were adventurous things. And the first one was I spent my whole high school life dreaming about traveling, and as soon as I finished school, I was 17, I was on an airplane, and I was off on an adventure, and I worked a little bit and got myself to Greece, which for someone from South Africa is a very far-off destination. And I remember very clearly sitting, emailing my mom on this beautiful day with this beautiful beach, completely free, could do whatever I wanted. My dream came true, but I was completely depressed. And I was like, hey, what's going on here? And the second thing was a road trip with about 5 friends when I finished university, and it was all around Southern Africa, and it was supposed to be like my dream come true. That was, you know, the best scenario I could have thought of. 6, 7 friends road tripping around Southern Africa, beautiful wide open spaces, no boundaries, no limitations, and of course the whole trip was full of politics between the 7 friends, and it ended up being almost like a nightmare. And And those were two really defining moments for me where I actually, a penny dropped and I really realized that, hang on a second, it actually doesn't matter what's going on outside, it's more about what's going on inside. So that's my penny's worth.
Yeah, I mean, going on from what Gabby said, I guess it's more of an internal thing, and that's the way I've sort of seen it over the last couple of years. And you know, we have so many thoughts running in our head, you know, all the time, constantly, and you know, negative, useless thoughts sometimes. And I guess it's what it really comes down to is, you know, yes, the external things that actually provide us comfort, you know, the clothes, the cars we sit in, whatever it is, but it's also, you know, when we're in uncomfortable situations, what do we do in those situations? And I guess it's, you know, what it really boils down to is how aware are we of our internal selves? And, you know, that's something very, you know, I found very hard actually, you know, especially in my experience over the last couple of years. I'm still finding it difficult, so, you know, I'm still pursuing for happiness. But I guess, yeah, that's what it comes down to, is really whenever you're, you know, sort of feeling that negativity inside, it's almost like stepping back and actually asking what's going on inside of myself, and observing it and sort of looking to change it. So.
Thanks for that. That's actually really interesting, because everyone has actually spoken about things that stem with their own self. It's got nothing to do with the external situation. However, Gopi, you mentioned relationships, and I feel like everything that we've been talking about is a relationship with something external, you know, be it the technology, the latest technology, that latest car. Like, how much do I associate myself with all of these things? And even people, like, my question is, what do I need to do with myself? Because I feel in relationships now we become so dependent on other people to give us that feeling of satisfaction, be it through interaction, physically, anything else. So what can I do to not feel, you know, this nervous energy? Or what can I do to not feel like I can only attain this happiness if I get it through someone else or something else? How can I be the master of my own happiness and get everything else to just complement that, as opposed to being like, you know, if I don't have this person in my life, I'm going to be like this. If I don't have that thing in my life, I'm going to be miserable. So what can I do within my own self?
I think it's more figuring out what actually would make you happy. So taking some sort of personal time and listing the things that you want to gain out of life. Not so much the new iPhone, but you know, dreams and aspirations, and spending time. And the way I worked, how I sort of got my career, I manifested it in a sense. I put together like a vision board of everything that I wanted. So travel, certain clients, where I wanted to work, and took the time to sort of stare at that each day, and it worked. So I think instead of focusing on what you don't want, focus on what you do, and I think that helps.
I think there's something about kind of shifting our perception of what happiness is, because sometimes it's like we fall into the trap of seeing happiness as an ultimate destination, right? It's a packaged product, and when all these pieces are in place, then I'll be happy. And it's more a fluid energy, so even when there is chaos, I can still be happy. Even when it's a state of being and well-being that is fluid in all circumstances, in a way. It's a state of self-care and self-nurture and space and feelings about the self that stay clean, that stay uplifting, you know. So even when there is a dark mood and dark clouds going by, I know that beyond those clouds the sun's still shining. And there's something about a deeper level of self-faith needing to be activated very deeply. You know, this whole journey of kind of getting to know yourself and staying connected to yourself has been a big part of sustaining good feelings about myself, no matter what the situation. And it also helps in managing expectations. Because I think a lot of what life is managing a lot of expectations, be it from childhood, your parents, then your peers, and then the person you marry, or whatever. It's a whole series of managing expectations so that Your life isn't defined by how others see you, but it's really defined by a pure impulse that you have the courage to follow through with. You know, again and again and again. And it takes time to separate out, I think, feelings. Feelings of other people's expecting what they require of you, the pressure of that. Feelings of what the heart really wants, what the conscience is saying. And I agree with Stevie. The practice of actually, again and again, stepping back has been very helpful for me. Creating some space between me and the situation, me and the person for the moment, so that I can just identify, the first step, I can just identify, what am I feeling right now? I can't change a feeling if I can't see it.
So, okay, I want to just give a metaphorical situation. Someone slaps you across the head really hard. How do I still be happy and okay? Like, we're not going to feel that, we're going to punch it back. So what do I need to do to actually take control of the situation and make sure that my well-being is not actually affected? That's obviously metaphorical, but we've all had, you know, spiritual slaps across the face or virtual slaps across the face, but people have said and done things to us that do actually quite hurt us and don't feel so good. So what can I do to not be influenced by that external situation or that person and make sure I can maintain my stability? Because it sounds a lot easier said than done. What tools can you offer?
I can just share a story with you.
Yeah.
And I mean, okay, I won't use a metaphorical slap, but I was on a bus going from here to Covent Garden, and there was so much traffic on the way, and this drunk fellow about halfway through got on the bus. There was lots of seats around me, and he went and sat right next to me. And obviously, you know, I'm trying to focus because I've got to give a talk. And then he proceeds by asking me a number of very intimate questions, which at some point are crossing a boundary. And so as he proceeds to, he knows I'm reading, he still interferes, so what's your name, where are you from? So yeah, how old are you? By the way, do you have any boyfriends? And so it's continuing, and then when he starts to ask another very, I can't remember what the question was, but I thought, okay. And as he's asking the question, I thought, this fellow's just out of control, you know, he's just had one too many, he doesn't know what's black from white. So there wasn't any reaction to him. There was a sense of, I wasn't mentally criticizing him, but there's a sense of accepting the fact that he's just out of control. But then there came a point when verbally he was getting out of control, and at that point I had to just very calmly say to him, I think your questions are crossing a boundary of privacy, and I'd really appreciate if you stopped asking them so I could just concentrate what I needed to do. I hope you don't mind, but I really appreciate the space to myself. And I was as neutral and as calm as that. I separated his state from what he was doing so that I wasn't attacking the person. I was dealing with the behavior, but not attacking the person. And that's really important, you know, that all of us carry certain behavior patterns, but whilst they're habits and eccentricities we carry, to be held for them can be damaging. And that way it becomes easier to deal with compassion. But it takes time to arrive at a place where you can separate the goodness of a person from the badness of their behavior.
What goodness did you see in him? Do you think she should answer that? What goodness did you see in him?
I saw a person who wanted company. It was mercy. I just felt a lot. I just thought it must be just lonely. I just saw somebody who just needed company.
Did you hear that? Okay.
You were looking for a different response.
No, it was a great answer. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. I actually wanted to continue on from that and ask you, Gabby, basically, stemming from what's just been shared, you've actually been able to, like I was saying earlier, maintain a balance of self-awareness. You've been able to maintain that balance of spending time with yourself to actually learn a bit more about who you are. Yeah. Also at the same time have this really busy lifestyle, but you don't even call it busy, do you? I mean, you are a volunteer. I feel like I'm talking for you, actually. You are a volunteer at the inner space. You are a student support worker at a university as well. when things can get a bit too overwhelming, things can get a bit too much, things can just be on top and things kind of take over you, what do you do? What tools do you use within your own self to remain calm and collected?
Well, I first want to say that you're saying it as though it's all achieved and it's all done, and I just want to correct that and say I'm definitely still learning, but I do feel that I have improved quite a lot in the last few years, and I think I can only speak from my own experience, but I think I personally would always think that if I want to have some quiet time, or if I want to relax or meditate or do something for myself, that I need a big chunk of time to be able to do that. And I've had to learn a little bit the hard way that actually you can do a lot with a very small bit of time. I think time, for me anyway, it's a big issue, that it's a thing that we need to develop a good relationship with. And somebody I know uses this expression of little and often, and I think I've kind of adopted that a little bit in my own sort of spiritual journey, in learning how to be able to take little bits of time, but often, to check in with the self. And as I say, I don't always manage it, but what really helps me is to keep checking my feelings, kind of like what Gopi was saying. Just throughout the day, constantly checking how am I feeling inside, and really raising my awareness of my own feelings, and then those feelings are like clues for me. And when there's a negative feeling, or a slightly uncomfortable feeling, or a feeling I can't quite name, just kind of asking myself, so what's really going on here? And kind of talking to myself in that way. And I find writing really, really helpful. So sometimes I'll try and get myself to work 15 or 20 minutes early, so I can go and sit in the canteen and just spend those 15-20 minutes writing. And I always find that I have these amazing insights come out really easily and really naturally when I just give myself the time to stop and be quiet, to leave my phone alone, to leave my emails alone, and just kind of check in with the self. And I think that's really been the biggest thing that sustains me and keeps refreshing my energy, because I keep, in these moments, you have these new insights about yourself or about a situation or what's really going on underneath. And those insights actually bring a lot of happiness, because I mean, the understanding brings so much happiness when you actually go, yeah, that makes sense. Now I know why I was reacting to that person. Or now I realize what value clash we were having. Or I realize whatever feeling it was.
So actually, it sounds to me like you acknowledge things that are, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, anything that may be not so great in your life, things that are going well in your life, but seeing, okay, how do is it like, whatever's not working, whatever's not quite right, are you just sort of spending time to see what can I do to improve on that? Like when you say you meditate, or you say, yeah, I have these insights, but what do these insights, or what does even meditation mean? What are you actually doing in this process?
I sort of put it in like there's three different levels of quiet time or meditation, if you like. The first level is like relaxation, and you need to be able to relax in order to get any further. So like taking time out to be able to relax in whatever way that you find you can relax, so whether that's reading or walking or visualization or whatever. And then the second level is developing that self-awareness, because the more you have quiet time, the more you have a bit of silence and introversion in your life, the more you give an opportunity for those insights to emerge, and you learn about yourself. And then the third level is the kind of what I think of as the real meditation, which is it's a different kind of thing. It's where you are very concentrated and you are connecting with a very deep part of yourself. usually the insights are about the part of yourself that's maybe not so beautiful or not so nice, or the part that's kind of, there's a bit of friction caused by those parts of yourself. But then the self-realization is really where you're connecting with that very beautiful, powerful, extremely subtle, but you know, the beauty of every individual, which is separate from your personal history, if you like.
Just we move on to the next bit. I just want to ask, when you say the bits that are not so good, if I have these insights about myself which are not so great, I think, well, I'm actually pretty horrible in this aspect. How do I actually accept myself, and how do I actually smoothly move on from that or work from that? Because realizations about the self not being so good in certain aspects can be quite painful at times, realistically, and we've all been through that. So what can I do to actually acknowledge what I'm going through? Because if we're talking about the pursuit of happiness, it seems like what you're saying is a level of acceptance of what I am and what I'm going through. So how can I accept myself, even with my flaws, and be happy? I mean, this is a question open to everyone.
Before the question's answered, I'd just like to add that I think that our pursuit of happiness, of things externally, are quite often a running away or a distraction from this little bit of looking at inwards and, I say facing the self, but I'll let the others answer the question to say what actually helps us to do that.
So I've been in that situation before where I've seen myself as like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And, you know, looking at that part of myself where I don't like, you know, where that behavior brought up something or realization in myself, and it's like, normally what happens is, you know, I resist it, I run away from it, and, you know, we sort of just leave it under the carpet and don't look at it again. But I think it's when you sort of fully understand what that part of yourself is, you know, by writing a journal, or, you know, by writing it all down and actually expressing it, getting it out there. And I think when you're fully aware of it, you can see when it comes up, and it sort of becomes like a habitual thing where, you know, the more and more you become aware of it, and the more and more you stop it from coming up, that's when it sort of slowly dies down in you. But I think the initial part of, you know, when you actually realize that part of yourself, I think that's the most difficult bit, because, you know, that's the bit that hurts. Realize, well, that's part of me, and the reason it hurts is because we've been running away from it for so long. And I think that's the first step that we've all got to take for us to, you know, get rid of whatever that is that's in us. So.
I think as well, I know I keep putting a positive spin on it, but it's to try and not be too hard on yourself. And yes, we all have faults, but to try and, again, focus on the positives, and by doing that, you have less and less faults. I think people are quite hard on themselves for that. But yeah, it's the same, going back, like with fashion, you can look at fashion and think it's sort of quite shallow. I mean, a lot of people look in magazines and, oh, I want that coat and I can't afford it, and, you know, especially young sort of teenagers, and that's difficult. I think it's important that it's not about having the next best thing, and just being content in yourself and working with what you have.
I like that kind of perspective on working with what you have to start generating an energy of appreciation, which actually is bigger than the energy of the not-haves and the not-wants, in a sense. One of the things that struck me, as I think was being shared, was I think on the journey there comes a point when you have to desensitize yourself to your stuff. It's just a desensitization. It's there, I'm okay. It's there again, I'm okay. You know? And it's not the personalization that tends to happen, where it's there and that must mean I'm bad because it's there. And I think a lot of the aggravation and the tension inside is not created from the weakness being there or the fault being there or the mistake I made. It's my reaction to it. And so for me, a lot of my own practice has been around, don't react. It's there, take a deep breath, it's there. I'm still okay. You know, so it is building that kind of a, diffusing that reaction that I have to it, and desensitizing myself to it. This became more apparent for me when there was a story of a person that I knew. I mean, she was a contact of ours who was actually based out in Alaska in the middle of nowhere. And she happened to come out of her house. And as she came out of her house and she was getting into a car, there was somebody had come in behind her with a knife and stabbed her about 8 times, right here. And of course, I mean, she turned around, she didn't see the fellow, he'd gone off, and she was just left, and she was found by the next door neighbour. The next thing is she woke up in hospital, paralysed from neck down. And it was very interesting as she was relating her experience, that the first experience that set in was just rage, absolute rage, of how dare somebody do this, you know? And then what set in was grief. And in this process, the counsellors had begun a practice with her. They had told her to, mentally, they were kept taking her back to that scene again and again, but not alone. They would say to her, think of somebody that you're close to and you love and you feel safe with, and now take that person back to that scene again and again and again until she lost fear of it. So it was like a desensitizing of that. And then when the grief set in, it was actually the Indians and the local tribe that came to her rescue, because the chief of that particular tribe came in and said to her, write down 10 things every day that are in your life that you're grateful for. And do this every single day until your energy turns around. And it was that actually saved her life. She said, without fail, every day she made a list of 10 things that she was happy for. And somehow what that started to do was activate her physiological system, and it began to respond to the physiotherapy. And today she's walking, albeit with a stick, but she's walking and she's up on her feet. And so there is a power that is in there that I think needs to get tested in difficulties, or what we perceive difficulties to be, are just test papers to emerge this. Otherwise, what reason would we have to emerge this kind of power? We'd just be like, is that too comfortable? And yet life won't leave us alone.
Thank you. And that kind of stems on to the next bit. I mean, Stevie, for example, you were telling me about your fashion industry and how proactive you have actually been. I mean, it's coming from all the stories that you've been sharing. The story you just shared, she proactively chose to, you know, write down all of those things, proactively choose to change your way of thinking. And I feel like a lot of the things that we do, we tend to feel like we can actually do things to make other people feel good. I feel like this is a part of what is related to happiness. We like to do things for other people. But first, I mean, effectively from the conversation we're having, we actually need to look after ourselves and make sure that our own well-being is good before we can actually project that onto others. But you were actually sharing earlier on that in the fashion world, obviously, you know, you dress people up like Kate Moss and Naomi Campbell, which is pretty cool. And then you've also worked with people with autism and Tourette's. Can you just tell us a bit about that and what did it do for you?
Sure. I first got into fashion and personal shopping and styling to make people feel better about themselves. So I've got a real range of clients from quite young to sort of middle-aged divorced women who go through a bit of a slump and they need self-confidence. And it's not about spending lots of money on clothes, it's about also working with what they already have and their shape and making them stand taller and feel more confident. So definitely that's why I do what I do. But yeah, working on a BBC 3 documentary recently with kids who've got Tourette's syndrome really badly, and you speak to them and they can't really form a sentence without ticking. And then they can sing beautifully, so helping them dress for a stage performance and seeing their confidence grow sort of starting off with their body language quite sort of, you know, insular, and then by the end just up on stage singing with so much confidence, and that's really rewarding. It's quite hard in fashion because there's a big shadow aspect too, but I try and stay away from that.
But essentially, like you say, whatever you're doing it to make other people feel good, even if you're dressing them and you're saying, okay, someone who's in joggers and a hoodie, you can look like this, you can feel like this, it's just a question of that feeling inside. And that actually links onto Ali. I mean, you've obviously done a lot of work in NGOs. What do you think it is about this action of wanting to do good for other people? You know, I feel like I may be stating the obvious, but what is it that we feel we need to do for other people to make ourselves feel good? Because I remember once I was in South America volunteering, and someone was like, you keep on doing that selfish motive of, you know, making other people feel good by volunteering. Keep on doing that because you're selfish, but do it. And obviously it raised a few questions, being like, you're calling me selfish, girl, I'm serving so many people. But what do you think it is about, you know, wanting to serve other people to feel good about ourselves?
Well, to be honest, I do think it's slightly a selfish thing as well, because I've seen a lot of times where people actually come in and they start, you know, volunteering, and, you know, the first question you'd ask is, why do you want to do this? Is because, you know, I want to get some sort of satisfaction because I'm helping somebody else. And I guess it's a mutual thing at the same time, because when you sort of put, you know, a smile is contagious, you know, when you help somebody else, you know, you feel that as well at the same time. And I think it's related. When you see somebody else in pain, you automatically feel that compassion for them. So I guess that's probably the reason people would want to go into youth work or, you know, charity work, helping young people or whatever it is. And that's from what I've seen, really. And sometimes it can be a sort of a dependency thing as well, you know, especially working with young people. And, you know, I've seen it where some people go in and they just want to get approval from that young person, and, you know, it can put themselves in danger as well. So.
Thank you. Just wondering, how much time do we have? Yeah? Oh, awesome. Okay, so, sorry, because I was asked to make sure that I'm time conscious, because I know we talk a lot, including myself. But yeah, we've got a few more minutes before we've got question and answers from all of you guys. But just to round off, just to hear a bit more from you guys about, okay, we've spoken about feeling good about the self, we've spoken about some practical tools, we've spoken about working to help other people feel good about themselves. But again, like, how do I maintain this balance? Because I feel like, you know, all of us, you know, we need to think good, you know, we need to think well for ourselves, we need to be positive about ourselves. Yeah, you know, we also need to do good for other people, and we need to make them look good, we need to make them feel good, we need to be proactive in the community so we can generally be good. How can we, because this all sounds very idealistic, but applicable, so how can we maintain everything that you've just said in a beautiful balance?
For me personally, I like to look at a visual. So, as I mentioned before, a vision board or something practical that you take time yourself to get pictures together that you like, that you can stare at each day and really see something in front of you. Also, you mentioned the gratitude book. I do that as well. So, every day to write down things that you're grateful for, it just makes you more positive and more things will come your way. So for me, it's to take the time to be practical and to do something that you can look at to remind you.
And I think one of the things is to just accept that it's messy. Hey, you know, it's messy. Life isn't a clean slate. It's not just a straight road saying it's all perfect roses. It's messy, but in the messiness, I can be quite happy with the messiness, you know, of things. And with things not having a neat bow to it and it not working out the way I want it to work out, it's okay. But I'm happy. And the thing is that it is a choice. It's a choice for me. And it's a choice I have to make consistently. Yeah? It's what activates it. It's the choice that activates it. It's not a destination, it's part of the journey. And I remember many years ago, I mean, you know, culturally we have so many things that kind of rubber band us internally, because growing up within an Indian background, an Indian family, it's probably only one of 4 professions you're allowed to choose from. Guess what? Right? Accountant, doctor, pharmacist, lawyer. And so here I was wanting to be a marine biologist. And you know, my parents are like, marine what? I then chose law, you know, and for some reason I thought, well, you know, maybe that's a field in which I can affect some change in the world, or you know, some place where decisions are being made. And as I chose the law degree, in about a couple of, or 2.5 years in, I decided to shadow somebody, CEO of a criminal law firm down south, to kind of see what it was like on the field. Yeah, you meet the prejudice, you meet the, you know, the definite male dominance in the game, and the decisions go where the money lays, and they talk about, you know, justice, but it's just PR. And so I was increasingly beginning to see the reality of the world that I was going to step into. And here's my idealistic perceptions of what change could look like. And I had to, and the guy I was working with said to me, you know, Gopi, you've got 2 things against you. 1, you're a woman, secondly, you're Asian. And that didn't bother me. I was like, okay, yeah, fine, that's what you want to think, no problem. But the thing that actually bugged me was the thing that when I looked at this immense amount of, I call it corruption around me, I had to face my capacity to fight it. And I really realized how weak I was internally. That I kind of saw myself 5 years down the line, somebody who had a good position, good money, good wealth, everything, but was just unhappy because I would have had to compromise my values and what I believed in on the way. And was I ready to do that for this fight? And I thought, if I start fighting this battle, I'm going to lose myself. I need to start building something inside me. And that was when I did a huge U-turn. And then how do I face the whole cultural entrenchment and expectation of my family and who've invested thousands of pounds in my education, etc. And it was at that point, I remember, when I just thought, okay, so I've got to do a U-turn here. And I couldn't go to my mother. She's just like a closed door, you know, finish your degree and then do what you want with your life, but finish your degree. And I felt like I'd be losing myself if I listened to her. And then I just went to my dad and I said, I need you to just listen to me. Just listen to me. Don't do anything, just listen to me. I took him into the garden, I sat him down, I just sat in front of him and I just talked for half an hour. And bless his heart, you know, God always puts somebody in your life who's an instrument like that. Go find that person, whoever it is, and talk to them. And he just listened for half an hour. And after half an hour, he said, the most important thing in life is your happiness. Go after it and I'll support you. And I remember in that moment feeling such a sense of peace inside, because he relocated me back to my compass for making choices and decisions in my life. You know, he didn't give me a marker of, well, when you grow up and you haven't got an education, who's going to feed you? Where are you going to get your job from? How are you going to earn money? None of those markers. It's like he reconnected me to the essence of what makes life work. Pump that energy, you know? And I remember sitting there thinking, yes. And it was that clarity and peace that made me turn around and face my mother. Who then, you know, as all mothers do, they're so great at taking their kids down guilt trips. But, you know, I turned around and said to her, and I was actually feeling very peaceful. I couldn't believe what I said to her in that moment, because I just said to her, Mom, I know you want my happiness in this, and I also accept that you're further ahead of me, you may see things that are better for me that I can't see for myself. But I've got to tell you what's in my heart. And then I've got to make this choice to step away and try something new, because if I don't do this now, and I die tomorrow, you're going to have to take the responsibility of not having let me do what I wanted to do. And I didn't even know, you know, it wasn't it was genuine. And she was just stunned. You know, she just stopped speaking to me for 3 months. She just stopped speaking to me for 3 months. And, I mean, she's just, you know, chuffed as bits. She's happy because at the end of the day, what is it that they really want? My happiness. If I have the courage to step into that field and make it work, and not embark on some half-baked venture for my happiness. And so, you know, you have to accept to start facing things, to actually, when you start making these choices, you have to face some things. But yet you can face them peacefully. You can face them clearly. You can face them with a sense of knowing, of a very true knowing and a very real sense of self. And that's what I call courage. You know, it takes courage to keep yourself happy, to keep making that choice.
I think for me it's having the courage to have quiet time, gentle time, just really that time where you can let go of everything else that's going on around you and just step into a really quiet, gentle space where you're just with yourself and you don't have anything to prove to anyone in that moment. And that quiet time, I think, is, for me, very nourishing. And I just want to share also a little story, because I think it relates. I'm working with someone at the moment who's very different to me. And I suppose we all have that in some way or another. And the thing about this person is that they have this tendency to kind of dig their heels in, metaphorically, and not want to move. And I'm very much a moving person. I love movement, I love change, I love innovation, I love dancing, I love, you know, kind of this energy of keeping things moving, not letting things get stagnant. And so every time this energy comes out of me, this person digs their heels in and is like, I am not going to budge. And I know I can't move forward without that person, and she knows I can't move forward without her. And so I was having some meditation about this the other evening, and thinking like, how should I respond to this? And in my mind, I was having all these images of myself kind of pushing her forward and like pulling her and trying to get her to move, because how inconsiderate she's being that she won't let us move forward. And then I kind of thought to myself, well, I guess I don't really have any other choice but to wait, to metaphorically wait for her, but not waiting like kind of tapping my foot, like, okay, are you ready yet? But to very quietly, very gently wait. And then this thought came to my mind, well, I'm not going anywhere anyway. And it's a really weird thought, which probably goes opposite to what we normally think, that we should have goals and aims, and we have our potential and our purpose to reach, which is very important to me. But what it made me realize is that I'm not going anywhere anyway. It's like it took the rush out of everything, and made me think, well, why am I rushing so much? Where is it that I actually think I am going? And then the next thought was, actually, the place I need to go is inside. Ultimately, that's where I want to go. I want to realize my inner potential, which has nothing to do with what job I have or what I achieve. It's these things about illusions around achievement. And I actually have to stop in order to go there. I can't go there if I'm rushing here and there, even if I am on a creative role, and even if there is great innovation going on, and even if there is exciting projects and things. There's some sort of intention, like that ambition has something mixed in it, something not quite right. And so she helped me in her own way to realize this thing of, I'm not going anywhere anyway, so let me just go inside and connect back with myself. And I imagine that the more I'm able to do that, her feet will just naturally unstick from the ground and we'll be able to go forward. It's about patience.
I like what you said about quiet time, because I feel like in meditation and when you sit with yourself, you sort of, you know, what meditation tries to get you to do is just to relax and step away from the mental movies and judgments and, you know, past, future. And I guess, you know, when we walk around in our daily lives, that's the sort of things that bring us pain and bring us unhappiness, is we live in a sort of prison where we are not with ourselves. And so I feel like the key thing is is to remain and be with ourselves all the time. Because if, you know, what you were saying earlier about having those those images of what you want to achieve, I feel if we're able to train our minds to sort of know exactly what we want to achieve, but carry that within ourselves all the time and be aware of the things that replay, that conditioning in our head that replays all the time of the things that we don't want to achieve. And, you know, and then we end up moaning because we think, oh, why is this happening in my life? But actually, we're the ones that, you know, attracted it or created it, more like, because that's what we sort of focused on. I used to do street fundraising, and that's a very difficult job. Before, you know, when I used to have new people coming in and we had to train them, it was like, oh, why are people so rude to me on the street? You know, people abusive, someone spat on me, someone hit me with this, and, you know, the public can be abusive, but it's also how you resonate with the person you meet on the street. And I found that when the people that actually go out and fundraise and face the public with a smile and, you know, with a willingness to help and a positive energy, they actually get that back. And the people who are very negative and, you know, the thoughts that run in their heads are that, you know, they put the judgment on the, you know, on the public, saying that, you know, no one's going to sign up, or everyone's rude, you know, people are going to hit me, or whatever it is. They're the ones that actually attract those situations. And, you know, it's very, very sobering to realize that and think, actually, wait, you know what, if I sit back and just watch what's going on in my head, I can actually shape where I'm going and shape, you know, the destiny, really my own destiny. So, yeah.
Thank you. Stevie, have you got anything you'd like to share before we put the questions out to the... Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. That's actually provided some really useful insights. Can we just give them a little round of applause? Now, most importantly, over to you guys. Are there any questions that you'd like to fire away to these guys? Don't go crazy! Yeah, we've got two down there. Have they got a mic?
I'm really interested to hear from everyone. What do you think the role of forgiveness is? And how does that play a role in happiness, the pursuit of happiness? Thank you.
It's a great question. Thank you very much. What's your name, sir?
Warren.
Warren. Thank you, Warren.
There's a word that we use synonymously with forgiveness here, and that's forget. And often, you know, sometimes people say, well, should we forgive to forget, or do you forget to forgive? And for me, it's been that way around. Naturally, to be able to drop the mental snapshot I've taken of what's happened to me, of what that person's done to me, to just drop it. Because the moment that snapshot still remains as an impression inside, it will still continue to act like a ghost, activating old feelings. And then you keep harping on about forgiveness because you can't drop it. The old feelings continue to interfere and mix in with your wanting to be good and do good. And so for me, a lot of it has been around just developing the art of whatever happens in that moment, just mentally drop that snapshot and move on. And it allows me to use another set of feelings in a relationship. And it might take time, but at least I'm not damaging myself more with the mental imagery I carry.
I find something when you have confrontation, or if someone upsets you, that tends to help me is that not so much with people that are extremely close to me, but with someone in work or whatever, to find a really good quality about that person that you like, instead of focusing on the negative of what they've done to upset you, and take that quality and kind of repeat it in your head while you're looking at that person. It could be anything. It could be, I really like your shaped eyebrows. So that person's really upsetting you, but instead of taking on that energy, you look at them and you think, oh, you've got really nice eyebrows, and instead of letting that affect you, that's something I tend to do.
Thank you, I shaped them this morning.
Yeah, just to add to what Stevie said, somebody once said to me that they had somebody who was who said to them, how did it go again? Something about I don't trust you, and they realized that it was because they didn't trust themselves around that person. And I think forgiveness is sometimes like sometimes I can't let go of something because I haven't forgiven myself for allowing the other person to have maybe done that wrong to me. I haven't forgiven myself for my own reaction or response to that particular situation. And I just found that really helpful. Just to turn it around slightly. It's not always the case, maybe, and maybe it's not the case with sort of childhood stuff. But you know, for your day-to-day thing, like, do I trust myself to be able to stand up to a person, or do I trust myself to be able to respond in the way that I would like to respond? And if I don't, can I forgive myself for that?
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is like with forgiveness is, you know, the opposite of forgiveness. You know, you can take something somebody's done and harbor some sort of resentment towards it, or have a mental image of, you know, you keep replaying it back and back and back in your head, and you almost put an identity or label on that person for that particular thing that they've done. And I think, you know, focusing on the good aspects of them, but also actually being there with that person, and, you know, not when you're listening to them thinking, oh, you've done this to me 10 minutes ago, I'm going to get you back, but actually just dropping that and, you know, stop playing that back in your head and sort of be aware of that continuous running commentary that you have on that particular person.
Thank you.
Merci. Are there any more questions before we head to our break?
So, there was a question before from Warren who asked how do you forgive and how do you, but I want to ask a question, how do you deal with guilt when you are on the other scale of, you know, when you are a victim it's easier to deal with it, but how do you deal with the situation when you are the person who is inflicting a pain on somebody else, maybe on the pursuit of your own happiness?
Good question, thank you. What's your name?
Veneera.
Veneera, thank you.
I'd like to know the answer as well.
Looking at you, Gopi.
I don't know the answer, but I'll give my a penny's worth. I think there's different layers of intention, and sometimes I use this example like, maybe I do something nice for somebody else, and on the surface it looks like a really good thing, and I feel good about myself. But then I peel back a layer, and I see that actually I'm trying to gain their approval, and maybe I'm manipulating them in a subtle way by doing this nice thing for them. So I see a negative layer of intention there. And if we get stuck on the negative layer of intention, then we'll just get depressed, because we see how, you know, our weaker side, the part of ourselves that we don't like. But I think the bottom layer of intention is always the pursuit of something, the experience of something positive. Even if it is manifested in a completely bizarre way. I think deep down, all human beings really want is to experience peace, love and happiness, really at the core. And so even if I have done something which has manifested that desire in a completely distorted way, to understand that I want to experience peace, love and happiness, one of those three things, because that's the deepest, the most natural state of being, and that's actually who I am at the deepest layer of intention. And to keep going down to that deepest layer of intention, not to get stuck on the negative layers of intention. I don't know if
to understand one thing around the feeling of guilt in my own personal life is that it's taking responsibility for something that isn't mine to take responsibility of. And when I talk about becoming over-responsible, it's in any situation, well, I must be the one at fault, I must be the one to blame. And I've come to understand that there are always three energies at play to produce any thing on the surface of life. My own intention, the drama of life and the behaviors and intentions of others around me and that whole wheel, and then God's intention. And these three energies that are constantly interplaying. And in any one moment, in any situation, I've got to recognize, okay, if I've done something wrong, have I realized it? If I've realized it, can I say sorry and then move on with the right energy? Sometimes it's not about my intention maybe right, sometimes it's just that the person opposite me has a tendency to behave in that way. And so it doesn't matter what anybody can say, they will always behave in that way. You know, if somebody wants to keep being rude, it's just their sanskar, it's what I call a habit, it's what a personality trait. And I can't become responsible for somebody else's personality trait. And so there is a kind of a separation in situations to kind of know, what am I responsible for here? And to make a really quick assessment. What's been my intention here? Have I made a mistake practically? If not, okay, what do I need to learn to move on? And if I haven't, then I just need to exercise a lot of good wishes to support someone else's discomfort in that moment. Yeah? So it's not a question of taking the entirety of the situation on myself, because I feel that guilt stems from a very egocentric perception of life. But I'm responsible for things. And I think that when you can start seeing yourself differently, more at the level of an instrument, then you give yourself that permission to learn and to grow and to move on. Yeah. If that's made sense. But
thank you so much for all your insights. Now, just to round things off before we go into the break, we're going to have Lisa, who's going to be giving us a little meditation commentary, just so that we can just gather all our thoughts together, what we've been listening to today, and go and have some refreshments. So if we can just have a few moments of reflection with Lisa's commentary, that would be great. And thank you for your time. Lisa, take it away.
you haven't told me who you are.
Have I not even said my name? Well, my name is Naveed, and hello. What would you like to know? I'm actually from Gibraltar, and I'm currently living in London. And it's great. So thank you.
I'm just gonna share with you some poetry I wrote. Guess you can say I wrote this poem while I was happy, and it's titled Live Life. I see myself as different. I want to make a difference. Got love for my enemies, even though they're distant. We want change. We want the world to listen, not with their ears, but with their hearts and their wisdom. We can live life different in every single instance. Go the extra distance, sheer persistence, constant perseverance, no interference, and only give clearance to my truly dearest. The negative ones that are nearest, don't be afraid of them, grow up to be fearless. Trust me, when I'm in remembrance, they can't touch me, let alone see me. The objective in life is to be free. You see, we all stem from the same tree, one seed eternal. The tree grows for certain, we experience peace, and then we feel the hurting, too scared to open up the curtain. Living in darkness when we could be churning the message from God and burning sins that were turning our lives upside down, not allowing us to explore the power of the now. Together we could bring change. The power of the gathering can take away the pain, give us solution to wipe away the stain. Live life extraordinarily, yet simple and plain. Keep thinking positive, avoid collisions, send out vibrations of peace with precision. Pack up the TV and really listen to positive messages that will help us glisten. Thank you.
Do you feel as if you've taken away anything from today's seminar?
Yeah, definitely. It just emphasizes more on what I actually already believe in the spirituality and just being positive and just learning and growing every day. And just listening to like different people's opinion that you can relate to just makes you think like you're not the only one that is trying to like get there. Like, so yeah, it's just been a really great experience. I've learned a lot, and one of the things I'm going to be focusing on is to not react. And like me personally, because I always say, yeah, I'm going to be spiritual and I'm always good, and something happens and bam, I react, and it's like I feel like I've taken a step back. So my 21 days gonna be no reaction. And that's it. Thank you.
So what do you feel that you've taken away with you or you've learnt from this Pursuit of Happiness event?
I think I've learned not to postpone my happiness to a later date. For example, you can always say, I'll be happy when this happens, or when that finally happens, I'll be happy when this happens, and just to be happy like every moment of every day instead of postponing it.
It's just really great to see like-minded people, and there's a couple of pointers there that have touched on some really core principles in terms of gratitude, and this understanding, reflecting, giving yourself space to just really be, spend some quality time and connect with your inner being. Yeah, that's awesome.
Most definitely. And how do you feel that your perspective of happiness has changed, if it has at all?
Not at all, not really. It's just supported and just kind of given me another perspective into the work that you guys are doing here, which is great.
And do you feel as if you've gained any practical methods to be able to implement, the quality of happiness and improve it in your life?
I wouldn't say the quality of my happiness. I would say definitely my appreciation for certain practical tools that you could do, like just reflection, like 10 pointers on gratitude as well, and I really appreciated the meditation sessions as well, which is quite relaxing, and yeah, it's good calm.